Hail, and welcome to Shadow Space, and we're commenting on another BCP video. This one is titled AOC Roasted as she backtracks after ABC reporter calls her out during Trainwreck interview. This was uploaded August 9th? Yes. This is being recorded August 10th, and link is in the description.
Don't be weird about this.
And she's gonna do her
No,
mic.
I know all of you
So,
will be.
I'm gonna get my water.
All right, everyone.
Oh.
Deco and I, day one of freezing my eggs. I'm diving into the process, and now...
What? Okay.
Oh, I've got... let's see, all of this medicine here. I'm going to inject this first, but I got a pro tip from a friend because this injection...
AOC, do you know that if you do this and you remove all your eggs, you will start to go through menopause, right? Not immediately, but you won't have any eggs to release. Your periods will stop. You'll go through. Just
kind of stings, it kind of burns a little bit. So a friend of mine told me that if you make the first injection first and
I don't know how many of her eggs she plans on freezing.
Sit while you're making...
assume you would freeze all of them, but I guess I have no idea.
While you're doing everything else, maybe it burns a little less. I don't know. But obviously I'm not doing this on live right now. Could you imagine? I didn't want to distract myself too much by being on live because I'm injecting myself with things. Maybe later. Maybe if I become a pro at this, I'll do that.
I feel like I'm watching like a meth addict just sit here and like prepare their drugs to like inject themselves with it, but it's her doing whatever this procedure is. I'm not even gonna guess.
So we gotta react to AOC and this sit-down interview that she did with ABC, where she is now backing away. She's backtracking from some of the far left radical positions that her and her colleagues took during the peak wokeification of this country, right? The George Floyd era, we're talking about 2021, 2022.
See, I mean, you say that it was then somewhere with like all the stuff with the DSA now. I feel like we've just reached a whole new peak. It just looks different now. I mean, maybe it hasn't peaked yet.
Insane.
I have no idea.
They're absolutely insane. Okay, and AOC has realized that getting on board with these radically far left positions, even though she is radically far left, I mean, don't get it wrong, right? But she is not as open with her craziness as some of the newer individuals who are trying to take over the Democrat Party. She's now again trying to backtrack, right, and distance herself from her past positions. Even though, again, we already know what these people actually believe, right? The people that they're in bed with, the so-called democratic socialists, which AOC is a part of.
Well, see, again, I feel like there have been a lot of times where a lot of establishment Democrats and have come out and have made DSA positions. They've endorsed DSA positions. Like, abolishing ICE. I mean, definitely abolishing ICE. Either doing something about ICE, either abolishing them or restricting them somehow, defunding them to a degree, doing that same thing to police, either getting rid of them or just defunding them, getting rid of things like the military or cutting military spending. That's been something that they've all talked about. I feel like a lot of this they've all said at one point in time or another. I don't know why this would be surprising.
We know what they believe, right? And I just find it to be so funny how now they're trying to come out and again they're trying to kind of distance themselves from some of the more extreme positions, but at the same time they're clearly in bed with the radicals. And this is what I've talked about in regards to how Democrats are going to have a hard time trying to disassociate themselves from people that they're clearly trying to get votes from, right? They're clearly in bed with these people. They're clearly on the same
Well,
team.
to me, that just means that, I mean, it's how willing you are to dedicate yourself to the cause. It's how zealous you are. It's the idea that if you aren't going to toe the line hard enough, then they kind of don't want anything to do with you. And the moment you start to get too problematic, they're probably just going to get rid of you. It's one where, because I've seen her in some of the videos on the stage holding hands with Bernie Sanders. So it's one where I just, I
But
don't
yeah,
know.
again, to try to play this game and try to pretend like, well, see, we don't really believe in all of that stuff, right? We just hate Trump. And it's like, no. You do believe in it, right? You are radically far left. You are a lunatic. You belong nowhere near an elected office. But unfortunately, these people are winning Democrat primaries, right? Let's just hope that they don't win generals, right? Which is, again, why they're trying so hard to backtrack. At least the smart ones are trying hard to backtrack on their positions. But as I have laid out, it's going to be really hard for them to do that because you have lunatics who don't care, right? And they're openly like, yeah, this is what we believe. Okay. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get into this.
So you have Wisconsin coming up next. Francesca Hong, who is the Democratic Socialists of America supported candidate for governor. You haven't endorsed her. Are you going to?
No, I haven't endorsed in that race. My focus has been in winning back the Congress, winning back the House, and positioning ourselves to have the best chance possible to win the Senate. So I've been focused on those legislative races.
What do you make of those controversies?
Yeah. So what I find to be so hilarious about AOC and
But
Bernie,
then she didn't finish it. She twisted it. That was weird. Okay.
when it comes to Francesca Hong, again, this is the woman who said we should cancel Thanksgiving, right? This is the woman who, again, has openly said the most radical stuff you can think of, right? Now all of a sudden, Bernie and AOC are like, well, see, for that one, we don't really know her like that, right? We're not paying attention to that race. Now, again, they're out here running around with Abdul El Said, Graham
Right.
Plattner.
They're definitely focused on races. They're definitely focused on certain candidates in certain places. So I guess it's entirely possible that she isn't focused on this one. I guess this is the problem, is to what extent is her involvement in the DSA? How much is she actually paying attention? And how much is she kind of just on the ticket, but is really only focused on certain issues? I don't know.
Right? Others, okay, who are also radically far left, okay? But when it comes to Francesca Hong, though, they're like, she might be too radical for us, right? I don't really want to say anything about that one, right? I don't really want to endorse in that race.
I noticed you haven't yet endorsed in the Wisconsin governor's race. What's your thinking there, and might you endorse? Or
I don't think so. I met Francesca a couple of years ago. I was in Wisconsin, and she seems very, very nice. But again, this is a race
What about Maine?
I just am not that familiar with. We have
No.
not gotten involved in many governor's races. I think we did one in Maine.
Maybe he's already said.
with Troy Jackson.
He might have said already.
You know, obviously,
Yeah.
my major concern right now is seeing that we have a Senate and a House. It's invited. But a couple of years ago, I was in Wisconsin, and she seems very, very nice. But again, this is a race I just am not that familiar with. We have not gotten involved in many governor's races. I think we did one in Maine with Troy Jackson.
Oh, they did? Yeah.
Obviously, my major concern right now is seeing that we have
I felt
a
like I
Senate and a House.
remembered seeing him,
that is
those
gonna
two
stand
together,
up
but
to Trump. That's really where my focus is. So
couldn't remember.
as of now, we have not been involved in that race.
It's amazing. It shows you that there's a threshold, right? Clearly, there's a threshold where they realize, okay, at some point, this is too much, right? And the fact that they're not openly supporting her, despite her they're all on the same team. It really shows you that they're starting to realize that, all right, this stuff, may not play well in the general election. Some of these lunatics we can't get behind.
controversial statements I'm sure you've seen. I mean, she's, the Thanksgiving dust up. She says she doesn't, still believe that, but, the abolished prisons, abolished police, which is also positions that have been taken by a lot of the progressive candidates who have won. How do you get around that? I mean, those are not positions that are supported by
Right.
most of
I mean, I think that a lot of these races, even right now, they'll have a tendency to be nationalized.
Yeah.
But these races ultimately are local, and all politics are local. My understanding is that Francesca Hong has made clear her present stances to her electorate.
Yeah, she's moved away from a lot
Right,
of that.
she's moved away from it. And I have a local city councilman that has this.
Okay, so this doesn't answer the question about what you actually do with the people who don't. What did they use? Distance themselves from it? That's not what they said. That's what I'm going to say. There are people who agree with the DSA platform who are in primaries. You just kind of, we don't think that, so that's okay.
Saying woke one was crazy.
Woke one was crazy. Okay, that's interesting.
And I think that what's important is that we have to assess what
Did the movement go too far with some of those positions? I mean, you briefly supported the idea of defunding the police.
Well, I think that during this time and especially during COVID, there was a huge opening of the Overton window. We were shut down. There was some of the highest unemployment rates that we have seen because of those shutdowns.
Yeah.
And I think that the doors were really open in trying to entertain any and every policy that was going to get us to a better place. And I actually think that the discussions that were had in that time were quite fruitful. I think that when we talk about crime today, it's fundamentally different than the way that we talked about crime in bringing crime down, right? And I think that we all share in the goals of having as low a crime rate as possible. I think that, during lockdown, of course, rhetoric in that time is not rhetoric that we would use today. And I'm grateful that these candidates have the opportunity to present who they are to their electorate and what they're campaigning on in this moment.
So, someone like Graham Plattner, who, even after it came out who he was and the things that he had done and how those things were good things, he got in as far in the race as he did, and now they're literally just swapping him out.
Amazing. What a walk back. What a walk back. Right? Basically what she's saying is that, well, see, during the pandemic, hey, we thought that it was cool to go to crazy town, right? We thought it was okay, right? Until it backfired, right? How did it backfire? Well, crime got out of control in these liberal cities, right? That's the main way it backfired. We had all sorts of chaos and crazy stuff happening all over the country because of these radical lunatics. And at one point, Democrats had a come to Jesus moment. And I remember covering this story very well. After the 2020 election, they didn't win as many races as they thought they should have won, right? Remember, the Senate was basically, it came down to Georgia, which, went to a runoff later on after the election. So, they did not have the margins that they thought they should have had in Congress following the 2020 election. And there was a meeting that they had behind closed doors where they literally, the so-called moderates, right, who also turned out to be lunatics. One of the moderates was Abigail Spanberger, that apparently went off on AOC in the party and was like, we cannot be in favor of defund the police, right? Defund the police is the reason why we did not win as much as we should have won, right? There was no quote unquote blue wave, so to speak, in 2020. Is because of defund the police. And they actually blamed AOC, right, in the progressive wing for why they didn't win as much as they thought they should have won, right? So, I mean, a lot of this from AOC is her realizing that, okay, yeah, like, this stuff is crazy. Like, these people that come out talking about they want to cancel Thanksgiving. They're trying their best to kind of walk back and say, well, see, we really don't believe the stuff that we said during the pandemic. Don't listen to that. That's not who we are anymore. We're different. We're different now, right? But at the same
but you're not. You're not really. I don't see it.
You have these lunatics, some of whom again are not running for office. The Hassan Pikers of the world, right? That crazy lady that's the co-chair of the Democratic Socialists. Yeah, I mean, these people are outright saying what they actually really believe. And to think that you can distance yourself from that by saying, well, see, we don't believe in stuff that we used to say, right? And ignore what the radicals are saying right now, who, again, some of whom are running for office, some of them are not, right? Ignore those people. Again, it's a hard sell, man. It's a really hard sell. They're going to have a hard time distancing themselves. But again, you can see they're trying to do the walk back here.
Because you know, and obviously,
Well, see, because I guess the question is, how do you know that it's real? How do you know if abolishing the police comes on the table somehow in terms of some sort of legislation that she wouldn't get behind it? It's a Democrat agenda item. It's a Democrat platform item. If you're going to be a big tent party and you are going to include the DSA's platform in the tent platform, then their platform is just as much yours. So I can only assume that even though you say that you're opposed to these things, if it came down to it, to a vote, you would vote for it rather than against it. I don't have sufficient evidence. You just coming out here and saying, "Well, I don't support that position now." I think you do.
the Democratic Socialists of America are having quite a moment. But you know how Republicans are responding. Let me just give you a brief sampling.
Sure.
Let's call it what it is. It's communism.
The Commie Caucus is coming to Congress.
Communism is on the ballot this November.
We're not going to turn this country into a communist experiment.
Well, you can kind of get a sense of the theme, and obviously the president has said the same thing. But by the way, just a quick definitional thing. What, in your mind, is the difference between socialism and communism?
I think to me, the fundamental differences, I mean, there's many.
Yeah.
One prevailing one is democracy. And I believe that democratic socialists are fundamentally pro-democracy. And we believe in the ballot box. We believe in respecting the outcomes of elections and governing democratically.
Amazing. This is what they believe in. But these are the same people who are boo-hooing and crying about Nicolas Maduro, right? Oh, we believe in democracy. But yet, when we got rid of a dictator who literally overthrew democracy in his country,
They allowed a dictator to be in power in another country in the first place. If you believe that democracy is the better form of government, then why would you allow to have these non-democracy governments running around everywhere? Unless your plan was to secretly subvert them, to try to turn them into democracies? Or you just want to be neutral and it's okay to have dictators and dictatorships? I mean, that's where we are. I don't know. No idea.
people were crying. They were losing their minds. You're an idiot if you believe anything these people say, right? The last thing that these people want is democracy. Because if you don't agree with them 100%, they'll show you very quickly what they think about democracy, right?
Well,
they resort
what does the democracy matter when the executive and the Supreme Court are in the control of the Congress? You have an oligarchy at that point. The representatives, who may not necessarily, in all instances, be representing all the voices in their particular areas, get to decide all these things. And there are no checks on their power. They can just do whatever they want. I guess they have to be able to, they have to be able to pass it, which, if you get rid of the filibuster and you have majority rule, then you would just be able to do, and there would be nothing that you'd be able to do about it.
violence. These people don't respect the outcome of elections, okay? They don't. Only thing that they want is for their guy to be in charge, right? They're Marxists.
I mean, that is the whole point of having the executive and the courts at the whim of the Congress, is to be able to force their agenda through. If the executive if the legislation that you want to pass is going to get vetoed by the executive, then you fire the executive and you put someone in the executive who's going to pass the legislation, and you just pass it. The whole point is that the few control the whole system.
Communist leader to be in charge. That's it. That's all they want, right? They don't want anything more than that. This whole, we're democratic thing, again, that's a trick, right? That's just what they use in order to make their agenda easier to swallow on people, right? They try to pretend as if, well, see, we're democratic about it. Yeah, but they don't like anybody who doesn't agree with their ideas, right? If you don't agree with their ideas, they basically call you the worst thing ever, right? You're a Nazi, okay?
And ensuring that the ideas and policies that are implemented are won through popular vote and popular opinion. And so I think that's why so much of what we focus on is also making sure that we are providing for the majority of Americans, guaranteeing health care, raising wages, strengthening...
Not all Americans, just the majority of Americans. So you don't care about minorities now. The minority doesn't matter. See, and this is why your system isn't better. You don't actually you don't get out of the power imbalance like you say that enacting your agenda is going to do. You just shift it. The corruption is still there, the inequality is still there. All of the systems that exist now will just look different. You don't get out of it. You don't get out of it.
The right to a union, and I think that that's at its core what we're about.
Are you still a member of...
Why would you need unions in a system where the government controls the means of production? Your local business owner doesn't own the business, the government does. If the government is ensuring that your healthcare and you are paid adequately, that your resource needs are met, you shouldn't need a union. Unions would be useless at that point. Why would you be pro-union in a socialist state? That doesn't make any sense. Unless the unions at that point are just supposed to be a check on the government, and that's how this is supposed to work, is if the government isn't doing something right, then the unions just sue the government? Is this how this is supposed to function? Otherwise it doesn't make any sense. You don't have contracts with a you wouldn't be hired on by the business. You would be a government employee. You would be working at the business on behalf of the government. The government would be setting the pay. Presumably.
Democratic Socialists of America?
Of the New York City chapter.
The New York City chapter, not the national.
No.
And what's the difference?
There's no difference.
Every DSA chapter is...
It doesn't matter because they're a big tent. Her New York DSA chapter ideals get melded into all of the other ideals that your big tent encompasses. All of the extreme ideas, all the moderate ideas, they all mesh in this space. They all exist together. You don't get to separate your particular part and then say, this is somehow distinct from everyone else's. It is, but it isn't, because it's everyone's.
Is formed locally.
Yeah.
And so the New York City DSA chapter, those are folks that you know. It's kind of like your local union chapter.
Yeah.
And yeah.
So, because I know there was that strange moment in 2024 when the national chapter like took away your endorsement.
Yes.
But I was looking through the DSA program, and this is the national program. I'm sure you've seen the document. It was adopted just a few months ago. But some of the positions here: defund the Department of Defense, close
overseas military bases. Do you remember when Donald Trump threatened to pull troops out of Germany, and someone in Germany, some diplomat in Germany, I can't remember who it was, got kind of, I don't know what emotion it was. He was perturbed by the idea that we were going to be removing military bases from certain countries. Like, do other countries know that you plan on doing this, and do they think it's a problem? No
overseas
idea.
military bases, abolish the police and prison system, grant amnesty to all immigrants in the U.S., replace the Supreme Court and executive judiciary with a chosen by lower to Congress, abolish the Senate, public ownership of corporations and essential industries. I mean, those are some positions that you're going to be hearing a lot about this fall from Republicans.
And I think we're also going to be hearing a lot about Donald Trump's commitment to getting us into a reckless war in Iran, his collaboration with big companies to make sure that everything from groceries to rent stay sky high. And I think that people are less interested in these academic debates, and they're more interested in how we're going to bring their bills down and make sure that they can afford to see a doctor.
But do you see, I mean, are those positions you support?
No, but I think that this is a free country. Everyone can have all sorts of beliefs, and they can organize around them. And
but you're associated
free
with
to do what you like, and have conversations with your neighbors. But my job as an elected official is to guarantee healthcare in America, and that's what I'm focused on, and that's what I seek to do.
And what do you say to the moderate Democrats who say, first of all, that they are capitalists, and that those positions are going to doom the Democratic Party because, again, they're not positions that are supported.
Yeah, I mean, of course, they're free to have their economic identity as they like, and in terms of dooming the party, the idea that there's a diversity of thought in America among everyday voting people is a fundamental fact of our country. I don't think that we should be worried about what...
So you think that Nazis being in the country is acceptable? You think that Nazis being able to organize and hold rallies, hold protests, and for Nazi things is acceptable in this country? Okay,
somebody somewhere believes. I think we should be focused on what our plan to improve people's lives are.
Another person who's been made an issue is Hassan Piker, who obviously endorsed Abdul al-Sayed in Michigan. You've been on his live stream, at least a few times. He's somebody who said, that America deserved 9/11. Now he backed off from that.
Yes, he's apologized.
But he said a lot of controversial things. Is he somebody that should have a role in the progressive movement going forward?
I think.
I mean, at this point, he's like progressive Elon Musk, where he's just sort of inserted himself into the political process. I don't know if people asked him to. I don't know if people requested him to, but he just kind of has.
We look at our elections that have happened. We have lost young people. Much hay was made about the fact that we lost young men in the last election. And many of the same consultants that are wringing their hands today were the same ones talking about how we need to go on Joe Rogan and we need to be not so, willing to engage in cancel culture. And I think that the flip-flopping on this is a tactical debate that they may be having. I think the fact of the matter is...
Like you flip-flopping on these issues is a tactical decision?
Is that Democrats can go on Joe Rogan, Democrats can go on Fox News, Democrats have a responsibility to build a winning coalition, and young people are engaging in mediums and conversations that we have a responsibility to attend to and be responsive to. And even right now, when we look at this insurgent wave of what is happening, oftentimes when people are doing that Monday morning quarterbacking and what demographics voted where, the big one that's being ignored is the generational tidal wave.
I
Tsunami.
mean, you see it in the polling. It is
And
significant.
millennials are not, punk kids anymore.
Yeah.
We're grown adults with mortgages and kids, and that generation is starting to be decisive at the polls, and there is anger at being ignored, sidelined, having our economic futures mortgaged by.
Then they aren't actually voting in their best interest. They're voting based on emotion. They aren't actually making intelligent decisions, they're making emotional decisions. That doesn't necessarily mean those decisions are better.
The generations that came before us on everything from the economy to climate, and we're taking the reins.
So wow, amazing, absolutely amazing. So basically, what we have here is AOC giving us a whole bunch of word salad, right? She claims that she doesn't agree with the radically far left positions of the New York chapter of the Democratic Socialists of America, but she's a member of that association, right? She's a member of the association. So you're a member of it, you're paying your dues, but you don't believe in these positions, right? This is what you're telling us. Again, nobody's buying into this. And this is why she was roasted in the reaction panel after this train wreck interview. Take a look.
I would be interested to hear what other people had to say, because I have no idea.
But as you know, I've been in this big tent party probably longer than most people, and I can tell you we're having the same kind of growing pains I saw on the Republican side, whether it was through the Tea Party in 2010, the activists who helped to bring about the MAGA movement.
And with all due respect to my friend Donna, there's nothing like, you can't draw any equivalence between the Tea Party movement and the socialists. For one, the Tea Party folks weren't trying to bring about the downfall of Western civilization and the United States of America. Abolish the police, abolish ICE, abolish borders, abolish the Senate, abolish the Constitution. There was nothing like this in the Republican Party. So it's an extreme political ideology that is gaining traction. The Democrat leadership has lost control. They know it. And people like Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, Hong in Wisconsin, Abdul El Sayed in Michigan. You talk about the big tent. The Democrat Jewish Attorney General of Michigan cannot even go to her party's nominating convention because she says, I won't be safe there because of the supporters of Abdul El Sayed. You can't draw any equivalence between what happened in the Republican Party with the resurgence of patriot conservatives versus these anti-American radicals.
Yeah, look, and I listened really carefully to what Congresswoman Ocasio-Cortez said this morning. You know, every position that Scott just laid out, when you presented it to her, she talked about backing off, changing her views, evolving views.
Woke one was crazy.
Woke one was crazy, which we never heard her say before. Look, I think the congressman put it correctly, that there's two parts to this. It's what are you talking about, and do we trust what you're saying? And after listening to the congresswoman, why should anyone trust her? The things that she has said previously.
Again, how do you prove that you have had a change of thought? How do you know that you've truly, what is evolved? How do you know? How do I know that you've evolved on the issue? What possibly could have happened that would have so fundamentally undermined your view of abolish the police that you no longer think that it should be completely abolished, but it should just be, I mean, did she even say what should happen to the police? She said no, that abolishing the police completely was silly. Okay, so does she believe in defunding the police? Because that's also a Democrat agenda, is just limiting it somehow. Does she support increased resources to mental health care and healthcare and all of these things that are supposed to be either helping or replacing policing or law enforcement? She didn't say anything. She just nonsense.
Obviously now, when she senses that she didn't know what she was talking about and she was out of touch and with the American people and now wants to advance her career, now all of a sudden she's saying different things. And I have to say,
because she said this while she was talking, was that Republicans just changed their positions to fit the political climate. Okay, they're just doing the same thing. All right.
when you played the Francesca Hong part, I can tell you this: the Republican Governors Association is giddy over what will happen on Tuesday, because we're going to hold people like her and the Congresswoman to what they've said over their careers, not what they're trying to conveniently evolve into now.
Well, again, it's a losing game because the establishment Democrats, that, despite being Democrats, aren't on board the DSA agenda, aren't going to support you. If you can get Democrat issues that align, then yes, they might support you. But not necessarily.
Facts. It's going to be a disaster, bro. Right? I'm telling you. That Francesca Hong lady, Abdul El Said, right? These lunatics, bro. I'm telling you, right? Republicans are going to have a heyday. They're going to have a field day with all of the stuff these people are saying. And again, this walk back stuff is not going to work. This, we've evolved and, but it ain't going.
That would be the play, is you have to demonstrate what happened in your life that caused you to have this change of opinion on the issue. You have to be able to prove it. You can't just say, well, this is what I believe now. How do I know? To his point that I also said earlier, how do I believe that this is actually what you believe? How do I know that when it comes down to it, you won't defect and go back to your old ways of thinking?
Work, bro. You got too many of these clowns running around here saying whatever, right? It's not going to work, okay? But we're gonna see. We got some important elections coming up here, and we're gonna see if these lunatics once again prevail in the Democrat primary and the general elections the midterms come this fall. Again, is gonna be so fascinating. So let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be interesting to see what happens, because there are a lot of, I don't know. I don't know what to think. I don't remember AOC speaking like this. And now she gets in the spotlight and it's somewhere she gets like partway through a thought and then something else comes to mind and she like pivots in this weird way. She doesn't ever complete a thought. Like, it never ends. It goes from here to here to here, and it constantly just shifts. It shifts around. I don't know. I think that because you really saw it on that international trip that she was on with Gavin Newsom and Trump, where she kind of just floundered and stuttered and didn't really have answers to a lot of these questions. I feel like it kind of might have broken her brain a little bit. Like, that very well could be, like, see, you could bring up that and be like, I realized at that point in time that a lot of that I needed to rethink a lot of my issues. It made me realize that there are more problems, and those problems are more complex than I had originally understood or thought them to be. So, after having rethought through the issues, these are now my positions. And then be able to reason through, again, like I say, why abolish the Senate? What does it do? Explain to me why abolishing the Senate would be better than not abolishing the Senate. Why? Just, I don't know. So, yeah, I mean, we're definitely going to have to see how some of these actual elections and see what the whole makeup of all these different bodies is going to be now. Because you're going to have Republicans, but then you're going to have your dark blue and your light blue Democrats. So, we'll have to see.